So I'm Dan Schleifer, and this is Brad Carter. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ChartIQ, and Brad is one of our senior developers. And normally, as the background for what we do, we as a company serve capital markets, and we provide developer tools to people within everything from financial portals and websites, retail brokerages, investment banks, and technology firms that service capital markets with the tools that they need to build their applications. As the name of our company might imply, ChartIQ, our focus is around charting, specifically securities charting for the capital market space. So a very small niche, but an important one. So if you kind of close your eyes and imagine what you think of as a trading platform, a Bloomberg terminal, et cetera, and you think of those charts that you see on screen, that's us. That's what we do. But we build them in HTML5 as a set of JavaScript libraries for our clients that they can deploy on the web, on the desktop, and in mobile platforms. We've been doing it for 5 years. We have about 165 clients around the world, folks like E-Trade, Fidelity, Trade King, Trading Technologies, Ready, Fidessa, companies that you may or may not be familiar with, but across both retail and institutional capital markets. Today, we're here to talk about something other than charts. So our core business has been charting, but there's been an interesting transition happening in the industry, which is the move to deploy HTML5 to the desktop. So when we think about HTML5, we normally think of the web. Occasionally we think of mobile, but rarely do we think of the desktop. What I've got on screen right now are two real-world examples. Everybody in the room has probably used Slack. On the left, we have Slack as it appears in a web browser. And on the right, we have the Slack installed application, which is built in HTML5, but is wrapped into a container known as Electron and deployed to the desktop. Now, what you'll notice is that they look pretty darn similar, right? They're still both the exact same thing, but just wrapped and deployed differently. So instead of having browser Chrome at the top, I have kind of just a Windows, or a Mac menu at this point. This is real. This is our internal Slack channel. We do have a dedicated channel to talk about hot dogs. This is one of my salespeople posting his dinner when his wife was out of town. The critical thing here is that the user experience is still focused around that single-page application. And single-page applications are great. We kind of expect them now, right? Facebook, Slack, anything that you can think of that's built in HTML5, all single-page applications. But single-page applications are not desktop applications. And in capital markets, as kind of a branch of finance and fintech overall, we think of a very different end-user experience when we think about a desktop. We think about a trader sitting at their desk with 3, 5, 10 monitors all stretched together with their workspace expanding across those monitors, being able to do all of their workflows in a multi-window, multi-monitor experience. So this is that same thing. This is our internal Slack channel in about 4 or 5 of these windows with a few other components, some charts and a news feed thrown in, and all deployed to the desktop in FinDEVr. So what is FinDEVr? FinDEVr is a desktop application framework built on top of OpenFin. OpenFin is itself a container and deployment framework. You can think of it like Electron, only more secure, faster, and built specifically for the needs of large IT organizations like you would find in a big bank. So this is a multi-window desktop experience of what it would look like to have Slack chat along with other components. So I've talked about it being a desktop application framework. It is built in JavaScript, but it's worth noting that this is not just another JavaScript framework. This is not Angular, it's not React, it's not Bootstrap. It's compatible with all of those. We ourselves happen to use a lot of React. It's specifically focused around the use case of deploying a multi-window, multi-desktop financial application to be able to build a market data terminal, a trading platform, an analyst workstation from all of the HTML5 components that somebody is building already for their web experience or their mobile experience. And using the container that is OpenFin can actually blend in .NET, Java, and Flash components as equal first-class citizens inside the container. So you can actually mix and match deploying HTML5 and classic thick client technology seamlessly to the desktop. So FinDEVr is very narrowly focused around this concept. I'll defer to Brad to answer specific technical questions about these components, but at a very high level, it solves 8 specific problems right now. So Workspaces, classic example. How do I put everything where I want it to be, tear out windows, launch windows, and have it remember and save that as a workspace across multiple monitors, remembering not just where every window is, but what's inside the window and what is the current state of that window. So I can then change workspaces, close it down, reopen it, and have all of those windows magically reappear and rehydrate with their existing content and their existing state. A launcher, right? Having a component that you can actually spawn and launch multiple applications from, that you can register your own applications to. An event router that's built on top of the OpenFin message bus that allows all of those, the parent window and all the child windows and the grandchild windows, if that's the technical term, to communicate up and down the stack with each other to do things like sharing information and sharing context. Human interface. Right? If I'm in one window of a Bloomberg terminal, I start typing, it isn't just that window that gets my keystrokes, it's the Bloomberg application as a whole, so I can control anything. Well, if I'm typing into one window, I need a human interface component that's going to say, hey, these keystrokes should go up to the parent, whoever's registered to listen for them, and then it can react as a result. Right? Unified storage, unified data manager so that you can handle entitlements and market data feeds. So again, not just another JavaScript framework, but very narrowly focused on the needs of building a desktop application. So I am going to pray to the demo gods and do a quick live demonstration of FinDEVr itself. The mouse doesn't work.
If you minimize that thing, the FinDEVr will come up.
So what I've got on screen here, and although this is a Mac, it's running Windows, you'll notice, is that I have a single chart. And this chart is deployed without a browser around it. So it's deployed to the desktop just like that Slack application that I was showing you. So I can move it around, I can resize it, I can minimize it, I can maximize it, I can close it. It appears in my, my tool tray. But you'll notice up here at the top of the screen, which hopefully shows on the projector, that I've got a toolbar. There's a launcher. So this would actually extend across multiple monitors if I was running multiple monitors at the time. And it gives me things like menus. Right? So if you think about this menu, this is built in HTML5. You'll notice that it appears to be cascading past the bounds of that rectangle. Well, FinDEVr as a framework very smartly launches a child window, positions it just so that it looks like a cascading window, and then when I actually click on something to say pin something or unpin something from the quick launch, it's then communicating with its parent. Likewise, I have right-click, so I can rename, duplicate, all the things that you expect in .NET or in Java that you would get from Infragistics or you get as built-in controls. Those things don't exist in HTML5. So now I can actually go through and I can launch a couple more components, and I can take these components and I can click a button to have them auto-organize and arrange themselves. What's going on with this one? What I'll do then is actually click on these and choose a color to actually link them to each other so that these are now linked by color for the channel red. And if I go through and in one of them, I change the symbol, it's going to communicate that up to the parent and over the event router, and all of the other components on the screen will actually update based on that. So now they are not just visibly linked together, but they are logically linked together. So now I've got a couple of workspaces that I've created. I'm going to load up my workspace. It's going to say, hey, do you want to save it? And again, it's going to save not just where these items are, but also the contents within them and the state of them. That's candlesticks, that's Bollinger Bands, etc. So now I'm going to relaunch a workspace that I created earlier with a bunch of different components. And you'll see that I can go through and, again, reorganize them. I can have them kind of auto-correct and repopulate. And I'm actually going to go ahead and launch one last item. So what's important to note is that FinDEVr is a framework, and while I'm demonstrating it with some pre-built components, our charts, a news feed, widgets here and there, it's a framework that you can think of as a hollowed-out terminal. So this is a set of tools that you can take your own React or Angular components or web components and FinDEVrize them with just a couple lines of code, and you can add in your own components and have them be linkable, have them be part of the layout manager, have them save state and rehydrate, reorganize and participate. So with that, what I'm going to do is actually hand things over to Brad, who's one of the core developers on the team, and he is going to, fingers crossed, do a live coding demonstration of how to actually build a new FinDEVr component.
Yeah, in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. And we do have a command line interface that we will be providing to everyone to quickly create components. We have a special one as well for React. So you create your React component, it goes into all the build processes so that as you're changing your component, you can just right-click and reload that app as you're developing locally. So what I'm going to do real quick is create a new component and then an input field and a button. I'm going to add an event listener to the button, so that when you click it, it does something. And I'm going to add a listener for symbol changes so that when I link it to another window and the symbol changes in that chart or the news or whatever it is, I get that event, and then I just change the state of the component that I create here. So let's run through all that. And I'm sorry if I don't talk a lot while I'm typing. It's really hard to do
I'll take
both.
over the talking while he types for just a couple minutes. So what he's going to do is go through and actually use the command line interface to create a new component, which, as Brad mentioned, is then going to go in and create basically a bootstrap, right? So it's going to create HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for the component. Now, at this point, you could take and simply copy and paste in your own component that you've built and put it into this framework. Now, you don't have to use our starting templates, but we have gone through, as he mentioned, for React and made it a lot easier. So now he's going into the JavaScript of the, I can't actually see, so I'm going to look over his shoulder. And he's actually going to go through and create the input. He's going to create the button, and he's going to, well, set the event listeners. This is where I'm like a horrible person to stand over somebody's shoulder and give color commentary while they code.
Yeah. Essentially, I'm just storing references here so that I don't have to write that line over and over again. I'm just going to define two functions here, one to handle the click, and then one to handle a linkage change. And I hope that I don't make a typo.
You got plenty of time, Brad.
All right, handle linkage. Now, I know because I've written this several times that when a linkage change happens, I'm going to be getting a symbol back because I'm going to be listening for a symbol change. So we're going to pass that into that function there. Then we're going to go ahead and add a listener for that change. And this is all in our documentation. We use the linker client, and we were going to register.
So you'll see while he's typing, he obviously knows some of this stuff because he's been working on it. We do have a full developer portal. Again, our business is building tools for developers within capital markets. If you go to finensemble.com, it actually redirects to our development portal where you can see architecture documents, how-tos, as well as obviously the detailed function and command reference that explains how all of these components work. So, like I said, he happens to know this because he wrote much of it, but all of that is exposed and available.
All right, last thing, we need to make the button do something. So take my button. Nope, let's just click. All right, let me make sure I didn't forget anything. We got button, we handle the click, handle the linkage, and we listen. I think that's it. So now we should be able to start it up and then launch our new component from that toolbar that Dan was showing you earlier.
So now what he's done is create, a basic kind of effectively hello world example. It's going to have to compile everything in the background and run because he's running this from the command line.
Yeah,
Give it just 1 second. And it's going to build that component. It's going to add it to the context menus for applications so that you can launch it. You can then pin it. You can have it auto-organize and be part of a workspace. And then what he's going to show you is the ability to take that component that he just built, which has an input field and a button, which you saw him create, and actually have it linked to the rest of the application. So now...
I didn't put text in there.
It's okay.
Just totally okay. So we're going
to go ahead and link these as yellow to each other. And then you'll see he didn't put text in there, but if he goes and changes the symbol to IBM, you'll notice that it is sent that across the event router as IBM. He can now change the symbol here, and you'll see the windows behind it change to Google as well. And with that, we're out of our 15 minutes. Perfect timing. I'll be happy to address some of the questions that you guys have. So what facilities do you provide to lazy load large data sets and then update only the elements that change?
I think that would roll into, I don't know who asked that, so I'm just going to look back and forth. We're going to be putting out a data manager component, which will essentially multiplex what comes in, so we can have 4 or 5 different data feeds coming in, and then we'll just pipe those to the appropriate component when it registers for that event. We have not done that yet, but that is on the roadmap probably in the next couple months.
Yep. So what kind of dev support does ChartIQ offer for FinSensible? So this is core to our business model, right? We license and provide tools to developers, and so our clients are developers, right? There's going to be an end user eventually of the application, but our customer is the developer, and so we offer developer-to-developer support from our US-based, both Charlottesville, Virginia, and New York-based development teams, and so that is a core part of our commercial offerings in our business. How are we different than OpenFin? Great question. So OpenFin is a very close partner of ours, and this has been built in coordination with them. So this is complementary to OpenFin. You can think of OpenFin as effectively C++ and down, right? It is a highly performant, highly secure container. It also handles interoperability with other languages, so .NET adapters, Java adapters, et cetera, and provides a deployment framework for managing version controls and rollouts. We're providing a UI UX layer built on top of OpenFin, so we actually call FinSensible an OpenFin application framework. So they're designed to be complementary. We've known and worked with them for a long time and have a number of mutual customers. Do you capture any user interaction history? So this is actually something that we're working on, not for us to capture it because we don't want it, but for our customers to be able to capture it in the form of analytics. So they can get a better understanding of the workflows of their users. And so that is something that we normally offer in our charting library and intend to offer in FinSensible. FinSensible, for those of you who are curious, is going into public beta at the end of the month, which you will note is a week from now. And so this is something that is hot off the presses. And so if you guys would like to participate with the beta or you have additional questions, please swing by our booth. We'll be there. Yep. Brad will be there. He's the one to answer your tech questions. And we would be happy to answer those.